US Industrial Computer Screens tutorial. First thing you want to do is always check your tools to make sure they're programmed correctly. Go to Setting, go to Tools, check your punch. Pulls up the screen here. You will check the punch that you want to edit or program. You'll see in this screen here you have an angle, 85 degrees, a radius of 0.12, and the total height of 6.88. This information will be gotten from your drawings that you get from your tooling manufacturer. So enter those in here and save it. If you want to make a new tool, you would go pick an open slot like number 3, hit edit, and then enter in the numbers that you need based upon your diagram. And save out of that. And then do the same thing for your die. Go to Setting, Tools, and Die. Pick the die that you want to edit. Select it, go to Edit. Once again, enter in the information that comes off of your drawings from your tooling manufacturer. Angle, the radius, which is going to be at the very top of the die right here, the total height of the die from the bottom of the table to the top, the V opening, which is measured from the top of this radius to the top of that radius, and then the width will be the width of the die, and the O is going to be from the center of the V to the front of the die. If you're using a multi-way V die, you'll need to adjust it accordingly depending on where that V is placed. You still want to go to the front of the die. Once you have all the information, you would just hit OK and save it out. Over on the machine side, you go to Manual, your X and Y. This is where you can move the X and the Y axis, in this case the X axis, forwards and backwards, using the slow or the fast. The double negative and the double positive will be your fast, and the singles will be your slow speed. You can use this when you want to calibrate or check the calibration of your X-axis back gauge. Under Manual, under the Y, you can do the same thing for the RAM up and down. This would be used for when calibrating the Y-axis, and to do that you need to contact the factory. In your single cycle mode, this is where you can do most of your profiling. When you're making a new part, you want to kind of test out your bends and see how they react and how the degrees, if they are accurate or not. As you know, all material changes based upon the material type and spring back. And then also, as you make numerous bends on the same piece, you'll change the structure of that piece and have to further adjust additional angle corrections. So in this single cycle screen here, you can start with one piece and kind of work your way through. So you would start with putting your angle in 90 degrees. Your Y-axis you leave alone. Your correct A is correcting your angle. That you would use when you've decided, making your first bends that you might need some corrections. So starting out, you might just leave that at 0. Once you make the bend and see whether or not it's 90 degrees or not, you can then begin to adjust your angle corrected, either positively or negatively, depending upon which way you need to further adjust your angle. You'd put in the length of the material. Could be 24 inches, could be 120 inches. It all depends on whatever it is that you're bending. Under your material, you'll select the type of material you're bending. So this is going to be either mild steel, stainless steel, aluminum, or something softer, maybe like brass, something like that. Down below there, you would put in your material thickness. So in this case, they're working with 187 3/16. Put that in there and change our back to aluminum. And the computer will round off the numbers of 187. We can put in our x-axis, whatever you want that to be, 2 inches, 5 inches, etc. Now we need to select our punch and die number. So in this particular case, we're working with some 3/16 aluminum diamond plate. So we want to select punch number 2, which has been pre-programmed already, and this punch was purchased for the purposes of using this material. And then we're going to select die number 9, which would be the die that also matches that punch. Our dwell time down here can be adjusted depending once again on our spring back, overbending, underbending. This is all part of the profiling process that you'll need to adjust your dwell time. Your dwell time basically starts when the ram comes down and hits that slow down or muting speed. It starts timing from there. So if you're getting too much of a bend, you might want to back it off a little bit. If you're not bending enough, you might want to increase that. And then you can further correct it with an angle correction, positive or negatively, to dial in that 90-degree bend that you're looking for. You'll see down here that the computer calculates how much pressure is needed to bend a 3-foot piece of the 3/16 diamond plate aluminum. Over in this EXT here is where you can adjust your dwell time. There's also a retract feature that if you want to, if you're bending a piece, it's going to interfere with another piece, another bend. You can put a retract in, so when the ram comes down and hits that muting point, it'll actually begin to retract the back gauge away from the piece that you're bending, and you can adjust that time with this little arrows up and down here. You can also correct your angle here. You can also correct your x-axis, your back gauge as well. If it's a little bit off and you want to adjust it, you can do that there as well. So once you've done all of that, and you like everything you see, you can turn the hydraulics on. And then you would hit the Start CNC button. So right here you start your hydraulics, and over here you're going to hit your Start CNC. And that will begin to get this program set up. Also, when working in the single cycle mode, it's always best to kind of work in the inch or jog mode to make sure that you don't just go into something that you might have programmed incorrectly. Just kind of test it, inch your way down, make that initial bend, and then if you like what you got, you can always go to the automatic mode and it'll cycle. When you step on the pedal, it'll complete the full cycle on its own. But sometimes when just testing things out, it's just safer to work in that inching mode until you kind of got everything worked in the way you like it. Another important thing to remember is that on these machines, up in the corner here is a Y. Your Y is a 1.847. That's a stroke distance that was based upon what we calculated for the bend we wanted to make. In this particular case, we want to make sure that, and always, that the Y in this corner here matches the Y equal. They have to match. If they don't match, if those two numbers are not the same, when you hit the Start CNC, then your brake is not going to work and you'll not be able to bend that cycle. One of the things you want to also do is, before you make any changes, you want to make sure that your ram is always in the up position. because you cannot adjust the Y if your ram is not fully up. If you like what you see here and you've done everything correctly, you can actually go and start to make some programs. So you would do that by going back to the machine. You can go to Product, go to New. Now in this mode here, you have two ways you can do it. You can either draw it or you can do the coding. So the coding is what we were just kind of doing in that single cycle. So we can go over here and we'll do a basic one here. So we'll go in and start with how many steps do we want to make. So in this case, we'll want to make 3 bends in this one program. And then we're going to put our thickness in of 0.187. And then we're going to select our material for aluminum. Go to the next page. It's going to ask us to start doing step 1 of our program. We're going to start out with a 90-degree bend. We're not going to correct the angle because we liked what we had. We're going to select our punch number 2 and our die number 9. We're going to make 1 bend. Our length is going to be 3 feet, 36 inches. We're going to scroll down our back gauge. We want that to be 2. We're not correcting any X distances, and this particular machine does not have an R axis on it, so there's no reason to correct any of the R angles. And we're going to put our piece face up. And our dwell time, we're going to set that to, we'll put that on 4. Okay, and our retract is off. Now we're going to go to our next step, and we're going to say, well, we want to make a open 45, and in this case, we would have to do that as 135 degrees. This machine does not have tooling in it for more acute angles, so we're doing open 45s or open 30s, things like that, and we have to kind of put our numbers a little bit in reverse for that. We're not correcting our angle. We're going to once again select the same punch and die that we already have in the machine, keeping our length the same. We'll put our back gauge on that one at 8 inches. We're not doing anything else here. We're going to still put our piece facing up, and we're going to put our dwell time on 4. And we're good there. Now we're going to go to our next and final step. We're going to go back to our 90. On this one, we need, like say, a 2 degree minus correction because we're a little bit overbent. We're going to select our punch and die again, using the same ones we've already been using, changing our length to the same, changing our dwell time to 4. And putting our back gauge at 2. If you like everything that we have there, it looks good. We'll just go back through once again our previous ones. We'll check them out, make sure everything we put in was correct. Everything looks good, so we'll go back and we'll save that program. Come into here, we'll just name it something. And then we'll hit OK. Now we want to actually make that particular product. We would go back to Machine, go to Auto Run, go to code, because that's where that was in the code. And then right down here we have our test with all these 5s. That's the one we just made. We'd highlight that, hit OK. We want to make 10 of them, it's fine. We'll pull it up, and there it is. Now our program is here and ready to go. So once again, we would hit the start, turn the hydraulics on, we'll turn our selector onto the automatic to the right, and we'll hit the start CNC, and it'll begin to set up to make our first bend. Now changing to step 2 of the program. It's now changing to step 3 of the program. Now we're finished. Just close out of that. We can also go to a new product and go to the drawing mode. So in the drawing mode, we're going to name the file first. Once again, we're going to go in and we're going to put in our material thickness, material type, aluminum, length, 36 inches. Now here we can select inside or outside diameter. So by using this particular mode, programming in the different parts that we want, then the machine will tell us, the computer will tell us how long of a piece we're actually going to need to make this bend. So in this case, we're going to work with some inside diameters. Put that in there. Now it's going to ask us to start drawing the part. So we're going to go to the zoom here so we can see it a little bit bigger. We'll make our first piece is going to be 2 inches long. Hit the next. It wants to know the angle. It's going to be 90 degrees. Next. Our next piece is going to be 10 inches long. It's going to be 90 degrees. And our last piece hit the wrong line there, so we gotta go back and delete a few. And our last piece is going to be 2 inches. So we can go back and kind of check it. We've got 2 inches, 90 degrees, 10 inches, 90 degrees, and the last leg is going to be 2 inches, and then we can finish that off. But once again, we'll go and we'll select the punch and die of our choosing. And then we can go here and see it. We can actually do the bend. We can kind of make it do the bend. And then we can kind of see from here what it's going to look like. And you'll see right here it's telling us that we need a piece that is 14.01 inches long, 17 inches long. We can also go into the function right here and we can swap. So we can do this in reverse if you want to just reverse the part. So just bear in mind when working in this mode, the computer kind of determines the best way to bend this. So if you're going to make a particular piece that might not be able to be bent, you might have a collision, it might be too short of between the legs, or too much of an angle, so therefore it'll end up, and the computer says it'll crash, it'll say you can't make the part because it's going to collide. So on some parts you may see that happen. If that happens, you'll have to think of a different way to make the part. There are some limitations, of course, on press brakes. So if you're happy with what you have, you would save that. And you can go in here on these other steps and you can just make some adjustments as to if you want to do an angle correction. You want to put that -2 in there. We're not correcting any of those. And then when we get to the program itself, we can actually change the dwell time as well. So if we like everything that we saw, we'll angle correct this also 2 degrees. Our angles are okay there. We'll save it out. Go back to auto run, go to our drawing mode. We'll pull that one up. Okay, it's that one down at the bottom. Just want to make one. Hit OK. We can see now it's in this, we can go to the next, it's in the drawing mode now, we can see it. Go back, we can go to more over here, we can adjust our angle correct, we can adjust our dwell time. You can also see the code that you just made as well. If you want to double check it that way, go back to the drawing, go to the next one, see the code, make sure everything looked the way you want it to be. Go back here, go to the first step, hit our start CNC. In the drawing mode, here is your bending cycle. Step number 1. And now on step number 2. This concludes the basic operation of the US Industrial CNC controller, 2-axis CNC.